Where is my free baby?
Here's your story, let's begin. The water's fine, come on, dive in.
Hi everyone, Jackie here with Enjoying Life's Journey, feeling better than ever. Today I wanted to give you an update, kind of a step-by-step play of the surgery that I had. I had reconstructive surgery to basically save my kidney. I had a stricture in my ureter, so my kidney wasn't draining. So I was getting extremely sick all the time. So I'm happy to report that I am officially 6 weeks post-op. Everything is healing up very nicely. As you see from the title of the video though, this whole surgery and the recovery was more painful than having a baby, and I have 2 babies. So I do have a few random little pictures that I'll put up here and there. If you're not sure exactly what I'm talking about, I have a few videos kind of leading up to everything that was going on. So go ahead and check out those videos. I'll link them all over this video. Okay, so we ended up flying my mom out to help with the girls. That way Ricky could continue to work and I could have someone help me get Arcadia to school and back. I had her out here for the full 6 weeks. She just left. We just took her to the airport yesterday. So I'm kind of back into the routine of everything. So I'm going to kind of go back from the beginning. So we flew my mom out on Friday. I think it was February 2nd or something like that. Tuesday I went in for my surgery. So my surgery was scheduled at 7 in the morning, but I had to be there by 5 in the morning. So Ricky usually leaves for work around like 4 something in the morning anyways. So he just dropped me off at the hospital and then went to work. Now his boss said, "Are you sure you don't want to take the day off?" And I actually told him not to worry about it because my surgery was about 4 hours. So I was already going to be at the hospital 2 hours before my surgery and then another 4 hours. And then it usually takes you about, 2 hours or so to kind of come out of anesthesia. And then depending on how much pain you're in, they'll keep giving you pain medication, which makes you kind of fall back asleep. So I told him there was really no point in him being there just sitting around, waiting. They told me I would be in the hospital anywhere from 3 to 5 days, so I brought like a little overnight bag with a few things. They get your IV in and stuff, and then you kind of just are sitting there waiting, and then gradually people come and see you piece by piece. So you meet the nurse that's going to be helping the doctor, you meet the anesthesiologist, and then you see your doctor before you go into surgery. At least that's been my experience all of these times. So I went into surgery. I'm not really sure exactly how long it did end up taking. What I do know though is that they did not have a room for me, so I had to stay in the surgical recovery area, which is basically just like a little cubicle with a sheet around you. I was in there for several hours before they had a room come available for me. They kind of ask you what your pain level is, so if you say you can handle pain up to, a 4 or a 5 or whatever, then if you tell them that you have a pain level above that, they'll give you some type of pain medication. So I was, like I said, when you get pain medication, a lot of times it makes you very sleepy. So by the time I was coherent and up in my room, it was already, I want to say, 5 or 6 o'clock. Like I felt like it was really late already. So I was there. They had like a mobile x-ray type thing come. They put like the thing under me while I was laying in the bed, and they x-rayed like my abdomen. I'm not sure exactly, I guess just making sure everything still looked good. I'll kind of go over the actual surgery here in a second. So that was the first day. Ricky came, brought my mom and the girls. Right after he got off work, he picked them up. So pretty closely to the time I got in my room and was awake, they showed up. They didn't hang out very long. I'm one of those people where if I'm in pain and I'm recovering, I kind of rather just be by myself. I know some people like to have a lot of people there. For me personally, I feel like when a lot of people are there, I feel obligated to, entertain them. That's just kind of how I am. So I'd rather just them not too many people be there if I'm in too much pain. So they only stayed maybe not even an hour. So basically I kind of chit-chatted with my mom a little bit, chit-chatted with Ricky a little bit, and then they took the girls and they left. So that first day, the pain didn't seem too bad because again, I had been put under anesthesia and I had local anesthetic done, and just, they were cranking me with stuff. I actually had like a little morphine button thing. So it didn't seem too bad yet. I thought, okay, this isn't too bad. So let me kind of back up a little bit and tell you about the procedure, and then I'll kind of go into the next days of the recovery phase where it became almost like a nightmare, and it sucks. There was a stricture in my ureter. Those of you who have been watching, you've heard me say this like over and over again. So they went in, and initially they were not sure if once they removed that portion of the ureter, it's the tube that connects your kidney to your bladder, they weren't sure of the tube, how much they were going to have to remove. So they weren't sure if the bladder, if they were going to be able to raise the bladder high enough to just connect it directly to the tube, or if they were going to have to use tissue from my bladder to make a new tube. Good news is they did not have to use tissue from my bladder to make a new tube. The bladder was able to come all the way up and connect directly to the ureter, that was actually good. I can't imagine with how much pain I was in, if they had to do that in addition. I'm really not sure how that would go. I got to see an ultrasound after the fact, so I could see kind of what my bladder looks like. So I drew you guys a picture. So this one, I don't know if you can see it. So this is basically what your bladder normally looks like, just kind of like a little oval that way. Well, now my bladder looks kind of like this. I've been telling people my bladder looks like a pear. So it's kind of over to the side. So there's a muscle that you have that goes down the side of your abdomen, and I think it's called poise or something like that. And basically what they did was they lifted the bladder up and connected it, basically sewed it to that muscle to keep it up there. It's like a hitch or something, I don't know. So yeah, so now my bladder is kind of like a pear off to the side. So interesting. And so the amount of ureter they ended up removing was maybe about an inch. They said it was just totally covered in scar tissue. So that's basically, I had kidney stones back in 2014 when I was pregnant, and they're basically saying that that probably just damaged it all up and it built up all that scar tissue, so they had to remove that and everything. So that part was okay. So when I started feeling stuff, my left leg, because of that muscle, because of being attached to that muscle, that whole muscle that kind of goes down the front of your left leg, like I couldn't lift my leg I had to physically use my hands to lift my leg. I couldn't lift my leg. It was that painful and that weak. And I wasn't till later I realized, well, it's because that muscle is what it was connected to. Originally, they had told me, if you guys remember, I had a nephrostomy tube. So I had a tube going out my back, so through my kidney out my back, that was draining the kidney. They originally said that nephrostomy tube in the back would stay in my full 6-week post-op, my full recovery time, and I woke up and it was taken out. The other thing they mentioned was I had asked if there would be a drain out the front to drain out anything from my abdomen, and originally he told me no, and then I woke up and I did have a drain. So I kind of woke up and a little bit like, I don't have the nephrostomy tube, but I have the drain. That's opposite from what he told me. They were in the operation room and they decided to change it, and that's later on what he did say. He said that the operation went really good, everything connected very clean and well, so he was able to remove the nephrostomy tube, but they do the drain, and you have that drain in for about 2 days or so. So I'll show you a few pictures. So Ricky took a picture of me laying in the hospital bed. Here is like the drain that I was talking about, and here is like the bandages that were covering up my incision. I forgot to mention I did have a catheter. So basically a bigger tube that goes from your bladder out. And then I also had a stent. So I had a little tube going from my kidney all the way down to my bladder. So that first night, so I had, like I said, I had the morphine drip, and I didn't realize I could just push it. Basically, it lights up green, indicating when you can give yourself another dose, so you can kind of medicate yourself however much you feel you need. So that first night, I didn't use it too much. The next morning, the nurse was like, you can push that sucker anytime it lights up. So it lit up, I want to say like after every 10 minutes or so, I felt like it was lighting up. Second day that I was in the hospital, the doctor wanted me to walk like 6 times, and there's like, basically you have your room, and then there's like in the middle is where all the nurses are at, and they wanted me to walk around this thing with like a walker about 6 times that day. So this is where I think I made 2 big mistakes. One was I pushed myself and I walked that. The other thing was I was pushing that morphine drip, you guys, like the moment it lit up, to the point where they tell you that you can't overdo it. But I somehow had still overdid it, because I was sitting there, they wanted me out of the bed, sitting in the chair, and I was kind of hallucinating. I was reaching, my eyes could barely open, and I was reaching for things like on my little table that either weren't there or I don't know. So I was kind of like hallucinating a little bit, so I kind of freaked out. I told the nurse I didn't want the morphine drip thing anymore. That's where I made the mistake. I should have just told myself not to push the button, right? Like any sane person or something would have probably done, but instead I had them take it away, and they started giving me oxycodone, which didn't even touch the pain. So I kind of, I made that mistake. So this is where I'm going to say it was more painful than giving birth. The incision, I'll show you guys here in a minute. I'm going to show you a picture of when I took the bandages off, but also show you how everything's recovering, what it looks like right now. But the incision basically goes from the bottom of my belly button almost all, like pretty much all the way down. So it's about 3 or 4 inches big. It's a pretty big incision. Well, when they cut you open like that and they have to move your abdomen and they're moving all this stuff around and they sew you back up, everything is trying to go back to where it was. So any of you out there who have had a baby, you're gonna kind of understand what I'm talking about. When everything's trying to go back to where it's at, you have a lot of gas pains, you have a lot of just other pains in addition to, for me, this incision. Your abs are sore, they can't do anything. If you have to cough, if you get nauseous and you have to throw up, you just can't. Like, you feel like it's gonna split open. So the pain was really, really bad. And so it might be equivalent to any of you out there who've had maybe a C-section, because a C-section, you get cut like all the way across. So it's probably, I guess, as painful as having a C-section. But for me, it was worse than having a baby, because I didn't have a C-section with my other two. I had them, naturally out. That night, I only had Ricky come and visit. I didn't want a bunch of people there. I just was not feeling too great. That night, I woke up about 11 o'clock at night, maybe 11:45, and I asked for more pain medication. Everything was still wearing off, like the local anesthetic and all that stuff. So I had rolled over onto my side. I woke up at like 1 in the morning and I could not. I went to roll back over and I could not roll over. I was in so much pain. I was stuck. I was holding onto the side of the bed, like holding my weight. And I pushed the nurse button and I was crying and I was almost screaming. I basically was just saying, help me. All I could say was, help me, help me, help me. And I was crying, oh, like this obnoxious cry. Next thing I know, I have 5 nurses in my room and they're like, you need to calm down, you're gonna hyperventilate, you're freaking out. They thought I was having a bad dream, and I just kept saying, help me, help me, help me. And they're like, what is going on? And I'm like, I'm in so much pain, I can't get over, help me roll over, help me roll over. And they wouldn't, they're all staring at me. They're all just staring at me. And I'm like, I know I seem like a total lunatic right now, but I was in so much pain, like, what are you supposed to do? So one nurse is like, you need to calm down. So I'm holding on to this thing, trying to calm myself down. And the other one's like, you're gonna have to finish rolling yourself over. We can't help you. And I'm thinking, why can't they help me roll over? Like, this is weird. So I basically just let go of the railing and let my body flop over. Like, I was in that much pain, and that your muscles just can't, it's horrible. So I'm there, and then they're just like, why didn't you call the nurse? I'm like, I did call the nurse button. And then the nurse that had answered it was standing there, and she's like, oh yeah, she called, but I couldn't understand her. She was crying. And I'm like, if someone's crying, then go to them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So then they did something I thought was very rude. She'd asked me, she goes, is there, something you're not telling us? As if I were taking, like, other things, like other medications or something, where the pain medication wasn't working. And it made me extremely mad, because I was like, have you seen the surgery I just went through? Like, are you insane? And it's like, everything, like I said, the anesthesia, the local anesthetic, all that had finally worn off, and my body finally was like in shock, and I wasn't doing the morphine. And I told him, I said, you only gave me like oxycodone. Like, that's nothing for what I just went through getting off of all the morphine. So they ended up giving me more morphine, and then I was able to go back to sleep. But that was kind of like a night that was kind of a nightmare. So the next day I told Ricky not even to come. I didn't want any visitors. I was just like in pain. I was in so much pain. So that day I only managed to walk myself around maybe 4 times. I took it a little bit slower. I think I overdid it my first day. I got in the chair. This whole time I couldn't eat. They had me on a clear liquid diet. So basically I could only drink things that were clear. Everything they gave me, like they had like these little clear Ensure type things, gave me like instant heartburn. It seems like anytime I have a surgery, go under anesthesia, I have like major heartburn later. So I wasn't really drinking it. So they ended up giving me stuff that was supposed to sit on my stomach. I was extremely nauseous this whole time, so they were giving me stuff for nausea. They were, I had antibiotics. They were doing stool softeners and laxatives and things like this. They're trying to get everything back going. Their biggest thing is they want to make sure you're passing gas to make sure your intestines and everything are going smoothly. So they're kind of giving you all of this stuff. So I think that day I managed to, one of the nurse assistants, I had a really awesome nurse assistant. She was actually Filipino. So when she saw Ricky pick me up, and he's Filipino, it was like they're just chit-chatting away in Tagalog, which is kind of cool. But she's told my husband, like, no wonder we got along so well. So I did have like a nurse assistant who was awesome. She helped me most of the time walking. She helped me get everything ready so I could sponge bath. So she was great. I had another nurse's aide that was a male that was really great. I didn't catch their names. And he helped me walk around as well. I had one nurse, she was kind of training another one, who honestly, I don't feel she's in the right field. She had a horrible bedside manner. She just seemed mad all the time. And then the person she was training started like having these characteristics too, almost like we're bothering them, like us patients are like, I don't know. So that was kind of discerning, because like, hey, like you chose this career, like, I don't know. But then I had the last nurse I had on the last day, or the last day and the last night were awesome. So, you're gonna have a few people that are either having a bad day, or maybe they're just, unfortunately, they picked the wrong career to be in. So that day they were trying to switch me on different pain medications. So they were switching me, they're having me do Toradol or oxycodone. They kind of were like switching it around. And then they put me on a different type of anti-nauseous, heartburn type medication. And I don't know, they didn't seem like they were working. At night when they gave me the Toradol, I also had a full-blown panic attack. I've had anxiety ever since high school. I've never taken any type of medication for it. I've just kind of, helped myself through it. But this was a full-blown panic attack. So I called the nurse and I'm like, I don't know. I'm so restless and I'm antsy and I don't know. Like, I gotta like get out of the bed. So I was trying to get out of the bed, and it was just like, he's like, let's breathe, so he helped me start breathing. I had a cup of water. I was dunking my hand in the water, just drenching my head. I was like walking from the bed to the bathroom. I was just like, oh my gosh, I was like freaking out. And it was just because I wanted to go to sleep and I couldn't go to sleep, and I don't know, it was so weird. It was like full-blown panic attack. He's like, hey, is there anything you normally take? And I was like, I don't take anything. And he's like, well, let me call the doctor and see if I can give you something for anxiety, or if I can give you something to help you sleep. So he did end up coming back and gave me, I can't think of the name of it now. It's a sleeping aid. I forgot what the name of it. So I was able to sleep for maybe like 3 hours. Normally that medication should knock someone out for like a good 8 hours. So I slept for about 3 hours, woke up, and then I went ahead and asked for the oxycodone. I was like, that Toradol stuff freaked me out. I don't know, I don't want it. So they ended up giving me that. Now I seem like this crazy patient, right, who's having panic attacks and freaking out, but that's just goes with it, right? So then the next day was actually the day that I got to go home, but I didn't go home until the evening. So I had spent a total of 3 nights and 4 days at the hospital. So the next day I woke up, and this is where I had the best nurse ever. She was awesome. She was training someone as well. She's such a good nurse and a good trainer. She was explaining everything that we were doing. So this was the day we actually got to take out the drain. We were taking the drain out of my stomach. So this freaked me out a little bit, because I was like, okay, I'm totally awake for this. This is so weird. So it's like this drain is like this huge tube that comes out, because it's all like in your insides, and so they took that out. But yeah, I really like this nurse. I wish all the nurses were like her. Yeah, so the guy nurse I had the night before and the nurse I had on the last day, they were awesome. You could tell that they totally love doing what they're doing. I wish I could have had them like the whole time. So the day before, I was finally able to go on to whole liquid. So they didn't just have to be clear. So I could have like like the actual insert drinks. I could have like chicken broth or beef broth. I could have pudding, things like that. That last day, they finally said, okay, let's go ahead and give you an actual meal. So I had like fish and carrots and like a roll or something. I didn't eat too much of it, but I did eat some. I kept it down. You know, their biggest thing was making sure that you, like I said, you were passing gas and you could have at least a bowel movement before you left. So that kind of, you know, too much information, but that's what they want to do before they send you home. This whole time too, my doctor, my surgeon, my urologist, he came every night to visit me to see how I was doing, to take off some of the bandage, you know, push around my stomach, all that type of stuff. So he's great. I really am glad that I had this urologist. He's been great during this whole time. Super positive, said everything went really good and that he wanted me just to get home. He said, surprisingly, the longer you stay in the hospital, the more prone you are to infection just because of other people in and out of the hospital. He said surgery is really clean and sterile, and then the longer you stay. So he said I was going to be able to go home that day, which I was super excited about. So I told Ricky just plan on picking me up. So that day I did some walking I actually did some walking by myself. I still used the walker, but I didn't need the assistance of the nurse assistants to walk with me. I had the drain taken out. I was able to eat an actual meal. So things were still extremely sore in the abdomen, but it was, you know, it was looking good. So Ricky came and they released me at about 8 o'clock at night. You know, when I was getting ready to leave, that nurse, they changed the bag on the catheter to a smaller bag, and then she showed me how to clean everything and empty it and all of that stuff, and then I was able to go home. There is nothing better than going home to your own bed. Just trying to get in and out of the bed. My mom or Ricky a lot of times had to assist me in and out of the bed for, you know, first couple days that I was home. Ricky helped me take my first shower, you know, things like that. So like I mentioned, my mom the whole time was at home with my girls helping me. So she was taking her Katie to school and watching Elsa and everything. So that helped me out a ton, or I wasn't able to do too much. No, I did. We do have like a little courtyard here at the apartment. So every night when Ricky got home, Ricky and I would do like a little lap or two around the courtyard just so I could continue to kind of move around. So I had bandages that were on, and the doctor basically just said, let them come off, you know, naturally after taking a couple showers. I'll show you guys my scar here in a second. So yeah, so after he had me go back in, I had the imaging of my bladder. He wanted to make sure everything was still connected, nothing was leaking, so that we could take the catheter out. Went in, I had the catheter removed. So the catheter in for 2 weeks, and then that was removed, and then I was supposed to have the stent in a total of 6 weeks. I have some really big issues, like these tiny little tubes cause me so much pain in my bladder. There's a few different pains going on. There's the bladder pain where I can feel the stent in there, so the only comfortable position is laying down. When I'm sitting down, I feel like it's like trying to poke through like skin. It's like extremely painful to sit. And then when you walk, you can feel it. You constantly, if you're standing or walking, you have the urgency to pee. And then when you actually go to the bathroom, it burns like crazy, and then it feels like the bladder's trying to push it out. So it's just like, it's so painful for me. Some people never notice it even in there. I think I'm just, because I'm so small framed, even though they used a smaller stent than the time before, it still was just so painful for me. So I had like a small amount of antibiotics and pain medication and stuff when I was sent home from the hospital, but that was only about 2 weeks worth. And then I wasn't on anything after getting the catheter taken out. Well, after getting the catheter taken out, I actually started having major incontinence. So I had to wear Depends, everything. If I had no feeling that I had a full bladder, and then all of a sudden it'd be like, oh my gosh, I have to pee, and all I could do is stop, and then everything would leak. I was like, what is going on here? So that was going on for about 2 weeks. I finally said, this shouldn't be normal. I thought maybe everything was healing. I don't know. I was like, this shouldn't be normal. So I went to the doctor. I was like, take out the stent. Like, just take it out. At this point, we're at about 4 weeks or so. So he ended up giving me a bunch of other medication that I had taken before. It was like an anti-spasm medication, a medication that's supposed to like help numb your urethra, make sure you're in orange, and then pain medications. And I was just like, ugh, like I don't want to be on all this stuff. So I gave him a few extra days until it actually ended up being like 5 weeks that I had the stent in. I went in, I had the stent removed a week early. He did tell me they have to tell you there's potential for complications by doing that, you know, all of this. I said, I'm fine with it. I think 5 weeks is good. I was reading a lot of articles. You guys know me, I like to research stuff. And they said that a lot of people who have that procedure will have the stent in anywhere from 3 weeks to 6 weeks. So I thought 5 weeks, I'm good with that. Let's take it out. Pain instantly gone. I mean, it's just so crazy how well that works. The bladder issues pretty much resolved. I'm still having a few issues, so we'll just kind of have to let things finish, but not like it was. I'm definitely doing a lot better at that. The other thing, when they took the stent out, my doctor was completely shocked. It was covered in freaking stones. I'm so sick of kidney stones. They're tiny, 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 just so tiny, but there was a ton of them. He's like, wow, I don't usually see that unless the stent's been in there for like 3 months. And he's like, are you drinking water? And I was like, all I drink is water. He's like, well, drink more water. And I'm like, drink more. And I'm like, okay. So I have this handy dandy thing. You guys have seen this in other videos. So I'm trying, you guys, I'm trying to drink a lot of water. I asked him if I should be concerned about it, if I need to change what I'm eating or anything like that. And he said, no, just drink more water. So that's what I'm gonna do. Here I am now, I'm at 6 weeks. I'm pretty much fully recovered. Like I said, I'm having a few issues with my bladder wanting to leak a little bit. I'm hoping that will kind of fix itself. I'm just wearing like panty liners. The pain, the incision pain and the abdomen pain, all of that has healed up pretty well. I still get some pain where that muscle is, where the bladder is. So I'm kind of just monitoring it because I've been circling like where the pain was before, and I had showed the doctor and I said, is this where the cyst is? Is this where the surgery was? And he said, let's not even worry about that till everything's done and we do follow-up. So I have a follow-up ultrasound next week. And the following week I follow up with my doctor. And then we'll kind of see where we're at. Otherwise, I'm doing good. So I'm gonna show you, so I've shown you kind of everything, the pictures. So I'm gonna show you what my scar looks like, what everything looks like 6 weeks post-operation. Okay, so here is the scar. Like I mentioned, it goes all the way down. And then this is the little scar from where the drain was. So they had like the drain here. And that's from the operation. And then on my back, that tiny little scar is, it doesn't look too bad, is from the nephrostomy tube. Yeah, so the little scars are healing up good. That one, it goes all the way down. So it's gradually kind of spread out a little bit, like as it's been healing. But I mean, that is what it is. So he did, you know, it's a pretty good job. Most of it's covered with my pants and stuff, except for like maybe a little bit on the top there. Not a big deal, I guess you could say. But yeah, I'm glad that operation and the recovery is pretty much over. Cross my fingers and I pray that that has permanently fixed this whole situation, because now I never want to have another surgery again, ever. I've had a ton of surgeries and usually I don't mind them because it's like you're under anesthesia and you wake up and you're like, hey, I'm fine. This one was so painful. Like I said, it was more painful than having my 2 babies. Now, the funny thing is, I told Ricky when he came to pick me up, I said, where is my free baby? To have this surgery be more painful and the recovery time to be almost more than having my babies, I was kind of like, I should have just had a baby. You know what I mean? Obviously, I needed to fix everything, but the idea was like, where's my free baby? Because I went through all of this, and you guys have been watching. I had all of this stuff start roughly in June of last year, so it's been roughly like an 8-month process. So I kind of was like, where's my baby? So I was kind of joking around with Ricky. It's like, where's my free baby? Maybe I need to adopt a little boy, because we don't have any boys. Will that really happen, you guys? I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I just, you know, being funny. You guys always hear me. I tell these stories. I try to stay positive. I try to look at them in a different light when I tell them to you and look back on them. because that's just how I am. But believe me, during that whole, you know, at least 4 weeks, I was in a lot of pain and I was miserable. Thank you so much, everyone who was checking in on me. I did have some videos that were kind of posted and they went out, you know, the first 4 weeks or so that I was laid up. And so thank you for being patient with me while I recovered and didn't really have a whole lot of videos going on. This month, I'm just gonna kind of finish out the month. I'm gonna go ahead and do my budget report for February. I know it's late. I'm gonna do my budget report for March at the end of the month. And then I'm gonna go ahead next week, you guys, I'm gonna share with you all about our cruise that we're going on, because I want to invite people. If we can make it a group cruise, I think that would be awesome. So stay tuned for that if you're interested for that. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.